bustling capital of Bangladesh, Dhaka, a series of events unfolded that would shake the very foundations of the country's political landscape. The story begins with the student-led protests that erupted, initially sparked by a contentious issue that had long simmered beneath the surface of Bangladeshi society: the quota system for government jobs. This system, designed to provide opportunities for underrepresented groups, had become a point of contention among the youth, particularly the students, who felt that it was being misused and that merit was being sidelined. The protests, which started as a peaceful expression of dissent, quickly gained momentum, drawing in not just students but also other citizens who saw an opportunity to voice their grievances against the government. That a tragic incident occurred, an incident that would become a catalyst for even more significant changes. On July 19th, as the sun began to set, casting long shadows over the streets of Dhaka, a grocery shop owner named Abu Saeed was making his way home. Saeed, an ordinary man with a family to support, was unaware that his life was about to be caught up in the maelstrom of political unrest that had gripped the city. As he attempted to cross the street, a bullet fired by the police, who were trying to quell the protests, found its mark. Saeed collapsed, a victim of the escalating violence that had turned the streets of Dhaka into a battleground. The death of Abu Saeed was a turning point. It galvanized the protesters and brought into sharp focus the heavy-handed tactics being employed by the police. It also brought scrutiny to the role of the government, and in particular, to the then Prime Minister, Sheikh Hasina. Hasina, who had been in power for 15 years, had called for strong action to be taken against the protesters. Her stance, along with the actions of her government, was now being called into question. Amir Hamza, a citizen of Bangladesh, decided to take a stand. Despite having no personal connection to Saeed, Hamza was moved by the injustice of the situation. He recognized that Saeed's family did not have the means to seek legal recourse, and so, he took it upon himself to file a case against Hasina and several other high-ranking officials. The case, which was accepted by Dhaka's Chief Metropolitan Magistrate's Court, accused Hasina and her associates of being directly responsible for Saeed's death. The list of accused included Obaidul Quader, the General Secretary of Hasina's Awami League Party, and Asaduzzaman Kamal, the former Interior Minister. Also named were several senior police officials, whose actions on that fateful day were now under the microscope. The court ordered an investigation into the matter, and the police were tasked with conducting the inquiry. The filing of this case was significant for several reasons. It marked the first legal challenge to Hasina's actions since the protests began, and it came from an ordinary citizen, not a political opponent. Hamza's decision to step forward was a bold one, and it resonated with many Bangladeshis who were tired of the status quo. He became a symbol of the growing movement for accountability and justice. As the investigation into Saeed's death progressed, the political situation in Bangladesh continued to evolve. The protests, which had initially focused on the quota system, broadened their scope to include demands for Hasina's resignation. The unrest, which had already claimed the lives of about 300 people, many of them students, reached a crescendo. Hasina, facing unprecedented pressure, fled to India on August 5th, seeking refuge in New Delhi. The interim government that took over was headed by Nobel Peace Prize laureate Muhammad Yunus. Yunus, a respected figure both in Bangladesh and internationally, was tasked with steering the country through this turbulent period and preparing for new elections. It was under this caretaker government that the case against Hasina and her associates continued to move forward. The implications of this case were far-reaching. It raised questions about the use of force by the state, the accountability of political leaders, and the rights of citizens to protest peacefully. It also highlighted the deep divisions within Bangladeshi society and the challenges facing the country as it sought to balance development with democratic principles. For Hasina, the case was a personal and political challenge. Her time in India was marked by uncertainty, as she awaited the decision of the interim government regarding the elections. Her son communicated that she intended to return to Bangladesh and face the legal proceedings, confident in her innocence. The students, who had been at the forefront of the protests, were now part of a larger movement that sought to overhaul the political system. Student leader Amir Islam, who had played a key role in the demonstrations, called for Hasina to face trial for the killings that had occurred during her tenure, including those during the recent protests. The students, who had shown remarkable courage and resilience, were now seen as the vanguard of the new era in Bangladeshi politics. As the investigation into Saeed's death continued, the eyes of the world were on Bangladesh. The international community watched closely, aware that the outcome of this case could set a precedent for holding leaders accountable for their actions. The case was not just about justice for one man. It was about the future of democracy in Bangladesh. In the end, the story of Abu Saeed's death and the case filed by Amir Hamza is a testament to the power of ordinary citizens to effect change.